last panel of the day. I know we're tired and I know we're ready to hit the bar. I'd like to bring to stage John Garcia, Director of Economic Development for the City of Albuquerque. Without his help, this event would not have happened. Thank you so much to the City of Albuquerque for helping to sponsor this event.
How about we give it up for Lisa Adkins? I mean, yeah. Really, microphone that's actually too small for me. This is good. I just a few quick comments, and I'll introduce the panel and my good friend Gene here in a second. But I also want to thank SMG, Jose Garcia, Elizabeth in the back. Let's give them a thanks. You guys rocked out. Thank you. We didn't lose the Wi-Fi, right? You guys were. That was our biggest concern at the city. Yeah. So you got to stay connected, right? That's important. It really is an honor to be here to introduce the panel today, and we won't spend a lot of time doing it. But just from the city's perspective, I know the mayor was here. He's quite verbose. Don't tweet that, by the way. You guys it on there? Okay. VERBO. So anyway, we're glad to be a partner with you in this, and we're excited at the city. It started with the TED thing, which a lot of you were there. 2,000 people. Tim, are you here? I don't know if he's here. Everybody keeps talking about it, but how do you spell TED? T-I-M. You just did a great job from a small thing. We believe that technology and innovation in this community is possible, and it is. Other people outside see us as this place that it is. And you guys are really the ones that really make it happen, creating this incredible buzz. Marilyn, give her a rock star. You kick butt. Wipe that smile off your face. That's all I see when I see you. It's just awesome. But it really is a buzz you created, and a movement. And today, at the end here, we get the guys that really, the rubber hits the road, and they really do this stuff that we dream about doing, and really create the possibilities. So, you guys, thank you for being here. I know you're busy making money and talking to your bankers and figuring out where you're going to put your money. Times have changed, but it's my pleasure to introduce you guys. So we'll get into it right away. First panelist, John Killoran, CEO, Allpay. Give him a hand. You did a good super job at presentation Albuquerque Economic Development a few weeks ago, and thank you for being here today. Randy Aslan, CEO Rock Tops, a good personal friend and just a super guy. Great voice. Give it up. Randy. There you are. Lem Hunter, CEO, Vibrant Corporation. Lem, you got personality? Give him a hand. Jeremy Lawrence, Director of Information Technology at Eclipse Aerospace, a little company that makes little airplanes over here. We're very happy to have you here. Thanks for being here. You'll also be here in a couple of weeks talking to our community, so we're excited about that. You'll be asking for money, I'm sure, and we will deliver. And then last but not least, David Abel, Chief Strategy Officer and Chief Legal Officer for Trilumina, our poster boy. Give him a hand. David, good job. I'm stalling because Gene's still typing away. So Gene and I met a long time ago when he was a congressional staffer, when he cut his hair in those days, was civilized, and actually I think you had it going on back then. We were just talking about how your kids, and I remember when they were just born, and he's talking about them getting ready for college, and it's kind of a cool thing to see that happen and how things change. But Gene is obviously he's a local kind of celebrity here, thoughtful, engaging, intelligent, just an overall good guy, very objective about how he looks at things, and he'll be up here thinking while he's speaking and asking questions, and I always like that about Gene. So with that, let's give a big hand, Gene Grant. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you, John. I really appreciate that. We do go back a ways. I hadn't really thought about it. Hello.
There's a
bill for that.
Right.
Didn't get that.
Only 56. Not quite yet. Well, here we go. Thank you all. I want to give the lay of the land here to the guys before we get going on some of the questions here. Just a couple questions, show of hands. You've all done this before, you're used to this. How many folks here with a show of hands own a company presently? How many are company owners now? Okay, so that looks like a majority, clearly. How many are in the finance business, maybe angel, VC, that kind of thing? Okay. You want to do that again? I'm going to have a show of hands. Oh, they don't go up now. You see that? On the VC. Yeah, one more time. And in the IT side, on infrastructure and dealing with the IT side of things, show of hands of folks doing that too. Okay, I appreciate that. Wow, that's a good showing. We had a brilliant pre-call conversation amongst ourselves. A couple of folks couldn't participate just a couple of days ago to get ready for this. And one of the things that came out of the phone call that I really appreciated, and I think you guys can too after the kind of day you had today, the kind of week that Marilyn and everybody put together here, is that the general sense in this group of the amazing positivity about Albuquerque. It was really an interesting thing to hear. I mean, John mentioned there's a bit of time here for a lot of us, and I can remember John slogging away at tech stuff way back when no one quite could figure out, you know what I mean? It was almost like he was talking to himself. It was a difficulty. It seems to me something has flipped, and I'm going to propose, I think something has actually tipped, I'm going to use that word, actually this year. There's something, as I watch all of this, and I've been writing about this since about 91, 92, I think there's something in the air that is quite different right now than it has been before. I'm not quite sure what all the pieces are that have coalesced and come together. I think it's really this room, energy, people, new ideas, and certainly these guys opening new companies and that kind of thing. So I wanted to put that out there and really congratulate them for where they're at on their attitudes about this city and where they are, because trust me, none of them are in the mood to hear about what sucks about Albuquerque. You know what I mean? It was so cool on the phone to hear that. I was like, oh, thank you. We're going to have a great discussion. So let's get going with this. Thank you for your patience on that. Gentlemen, let's talk about growth. Things that cause companies to grow or allow companies to grow. That is management talent, money, and killer employees that are affordable, that don't break your rear ends financially. And we're going to talk about some of those things and cast out a little bit about your fortunes moving forward and how you see the world, and perhaps some other CEOs here and other C-level folks and owners can climb onto that too. And we hopefully have some time at the end for some questions too, so we'll go there. John, let me go all the way down the end. APay, I very much appreciate the space you're toiling in. It really is something that a lot of folks have been waiting to happen for a long time, a new sense of how money moves. You're breaking a lot of windows with this business. It's really, you're when you count Square and some other folks out there, you're really on the vanguard. How does Albuquerque fit for you being on the vanguard? Do you feel left out at all being in Albuquerque from other people in this space, or do you feel it's an advantage actually to be here in Albuquerque and away from all that?
I think it's a definite advantage.
Pull that microphone just a little bit closer to you.
I think it's a definite advantage. Can you hear me?
A little bit closer.
Hello.
There you go.
Hello. Okay, how's that?
Good.
That's good. All right. So yeah, it's great being here in Albuquerque.
Yeah.
I travel a lot. I've lived in probably 10 different cities throughout the United States. And one thing I always find kind of funny about folks in Albuquerque is, they say, oh, well, that's, we can't do that here in Albuquerque, or we've got this. I joke that there's an Albuquerque / New Mexico self-esteem issue. Everyone thinks, oh, we're nowhere. Like we're not California. And like we watch TV and it looks so cool in California. Have you ever lived in California? I mean, there's great stuff there, but it's not that great. It looks better on TV. So. And I've lived in both Northern and Southern California and have come back. I've been here 20 years. And it's just a fabulous place. I mean, there's clarity in the air. It's beautiful, the sunshine. I mean, these are the things you need for inspiration. You don't need traffic jams. You don't need overcast, cloudy skies. You don't need a very plastic society. You need this very authentic, this is a science-driven, natural society. It's very cool. I think there's a lot of juice here.
when you, I'm going to stay with you for a second, when you cast out in the future for your growth needs here, I'm going to assume you're comfortable, that's why you're here, that you can grow with this city or the city can grow with you. Is it a little bit of both? Are you confident the city can grow with you and your plans?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, one of the favorite things I like to say about Albuquerque, I said, when I traveled, I say, you know, we have this first, second, or third, whatever the number is, highest concentrations of PhDs in the nation, if not the world. Okay? And I say, and that's great. And as far as the startup is concerned, we don't give a crap about the PhDs, but the PhDs procreate. And there's a ton of smart kids in this town, you know, that are hungry, that are looking, and that's what we go for. And so there's a great wealth of talent here.
Interesting. Randy, would you echo that as well? You know, you're getting your needs met, and I definitely want to circle back to something that came up in our phone call about that level of talent for young people. I think there's something quite profound we discussed. We want to share too. But on your point, go ahead.
Yeah, we love being out of Albuquerque. So we're kind of an oddity in that my background is technology, and through a series of activities, I have patents in the food service space, which allowed us to launch this disposable food tray company. And it presented lots of challenges, right? I mean, we're not a plastics company. We don't have any large plastics companies doing thermoforming here. I'm a technologist and view the world that way. And so we decided to launch a technology company that sells food trays. That's how we went about doing it. 3D rendering, putting product lines together that don't exist and getting customers first, then getting manufacturers to bid on our work, and then lining up customers and manufacturers and bootstrapping this and just being really smart about it. I'm very pleased to be in Albuquerque. A couple of different reasons. We found great talent here. We have an excellent small team. There are 5 of us. We've been able to garner very large sales distribution contracts. We've got folks that are selling us into 2,000 stadiums right now. We're doing it with 5 folks that support those efforts. And the reason I like New Mexico in particular is not only have I been able to garner that talent, but we're one phone call away from absolutely anybody we need here. You don't get that in Colorado, in California, in Illinois, in New York. We are literally a phone call away. If we need the governor's support, we're a phone call away. If we need a senator's support, the mayor's support, John Garcia's support, we are a phone call away. Yet on the national level, we have equal standing with everybody else. So if you want to build something national, if you want to have something with global implications, I couldn't think of a better place than New Mexico. We have infrastructure. We have technical infrastructure, we have fiber, we have data centers. Mississippi doesn't have that, so you can't say that Mississippi offers the same. I think it's a fantastic place to grow a business. The cost of living is low, so if you've lived somewhere else, I enjoyed my life in Arizona, spent my 20s and 30s in Arizona, but I could create that life here. And so outside of an ocean, there's nothing that you can't do here that you can do just about anywhere else within a one-hour flight. And you can actually get to the airport 30 minutes before your flight and still make your plane. And so yeah, we love it here.
I'm going to stay with you for a second. What do you do to your manufacturing for the trays? Could you give us a bit on that?
Sure. So what we do is we haven't been able to find a thermal former, so it's a type of technology for making our trays. It's a very inexpensive type of manufacturing. So we went next door. We're thermoforming in Phoenix, and we have a good partner that was perfect for us to launch the company. And they do our warehousing for us. So we drop ship out of Phoenix to the stadiums that we need to. And as we build momentum, we will then shift into Cisco and US Foods and all of the in-place distribution that makes it real easy for a small company to do business, because now you're literally manufacturing and going into distribution. We are looking for ways to bring that manufacturing here to New Mexico. Right now we're talking, for example, to Adelante. We'd like to do more with our packaging. We'd like to have our packages include point of sale information and menu information that makes it easy to utilize our trays. Well, we can do that assembly here. We can have them warehouse perhaps in Albuquerque and then do fulfillment for us. And so we're looking for ways to move infrastructure here. But right now, without having a major thermoformer here, we did go to Phoenix, and we're fine with that.
What would it take for somebody to do that here? The reason I want to stay with you on this, and no offense to anybody else here, but you're really actually quite making something that you could hold in your hand and all that kind of thing. Right. Besides airplanes and those kind of things, right?
Hey there, take offense.
I got everybody up. All right. But that system you're describing, and thank you for anticipating my question, because we're moving into a new age of manufacturing. We're moving into new opportunities, but there's some bumps in the road. There's some opportunities for robotics. That means less opportunities for warm-blooded folks to do certain things. So when you cast forward to New Mexico again, is that system doable here? Do you anticipate without a huge capital expenditure, or maybe another partner to do that thermal thing here? Or
well, I'd like to answer that that what we're going to do is build a manufacturing facility here and hire 300 or 400 people.
You didn't even finish the sentence. You're on your feet.
And that being said, it would be wonderful to have that sort of thermoforming infrastructure here.
Right.
The reality is that world economics is shifting that. There are folks like the Chinese who are buying all of the plastic. So if you don't have plastic, it doesn't matter what machines you have, the plastic's floating over there. Now we don't do Chinese manufacturing, anything like that today. We don't. But those are things that we can't control. However, I'll tell you what we are finding. Because we're an entrepreneurial company, we are finding new opportunities in the world of food service that have nothing to do with our trays. We are finding new opportunities to employ technologies to help food service companies better connect with their consumers, things that have not been done before and have not been introduced before. So our food trays have become the catalyst to conversations in the executive suite, in which we find out that these companies are looking for new technologies to lock consumers into their brand. So we are now developing software platforms, believe it or not, that help them sell more food, keep their customers loyal, and help these customers do more when they're on premise. Now, where I think New Mexico is fit is for this type of thing is to have programs with UNM and CNM in which we have a certain type of developer that's being spurned out that we can put to work immediately, so that New Mexico actually becomes a centerpiece for things like augmented reality, digital animation, high-end graphic design, big data. We think that is completely possible here, and we think that those things can be evolved through the school systems. So don't mean to harbor the time, but we are finding ways to plug holes that we think will be fantastic for the state and for the economic development in the long term.
Good for you. Your influence on that will be beneficial, believe me. Everything you said there was quality. You didn't take time at all. Do me a favor, slide that microphone down to you, Lem, your neighbor there, or whichever is easier. There we go. Lem, you.
Uh-oh.
You certainly make something, Lem.
But no, that wasn't me. He makes jets.
Right.
You can't hold them in your hand.
That's right. Your growth plans, your future plans. You're bullish on Albuquerque. We've had a conversation about this certainly. But when you cast forward, let's talk about people and the plugs you need the holes you need to plug looking down the road. You're optimistic. Everything's looking very good for you here.
I am. Randy's already hit on a lot of the things that I think are important, and we've had these levels of conversations all around. One of the things that I'll caution us about is trying to put a net over everything that could possibly happen here. It's a global world now. But there are some benefits from that. If it's truly global, you can choose where you want to live and what you want to do and the environment you want to operate in, and you can make the rest of it happen. We're a very small company, but we have a joint venture in the United Kingdom and another one in Germany, and we literally serve aerospace worldwide from scenic Albuquerque. We have to travel too. There's nowhere else I could go where more of my customers are. There are none here. I could move someplace that has one or two, but there's nowhere I can go where they all are. So that being said, I like it here quite a bit. We don't have trouble, mostly due to luck, but we don't have too much trouble finding the kind of talent we need. I have a former turbine airfoil designer from Rolls-Royce, right? Well, his wife happens to be a heavy hitter in the nanotube world and graphite world and is at Sandia, and where's that guy gonna find a job? Well, now, 10 years ago, he'd have no chance. Right, but now he can work for me, and if he gets tired of me, he can work for you. There's more of these types of jobs around, so things are really changing. So we talk about sometimes it being challenging to draw and attract people here, but we really haven't had that experience either. It would be true, it would be tough to pry them out of some of the hotbeds if you're after a particular technologist type, and I heard somebody talking about biotech and that being a little tougher here. I absolutely grant that. But things are more flexible and more portable, and I have no doubt that we'll be able to continue to grow here and keep our base here.
Interesting. All kidding aside, when you laughed about that fellow could either work for you, go down the road, work for somebody else, that's actually a big deal. When you think about Albuquerque and how a lateral move sometimes is a huge difficulty, if something that you have is really cooking, it just doesn't quite work out, where are you going to go down the street for a lot of situations? That's actually a turn of events that's significant.
A few people that I have lured to Albuquerque from other places, that's been an important thing for them. So when you drag a guy who's a super specialist in the manufacture of aerospace turbine components, you drag him to town and you say, well, we got the GE plant, and he says, yeah, but it's closing. What else would I do if this doesn't work out or you get in trouble? We have a list of a few other things at least that he could do that are relative to his base, because when someone's going to pack up, move, buy a house, all those things, they want to know that there's more than one thing they can do in that town. That's something that we really do have now that we really didn't have 20 years ago.
Right. And that's I mean, John, good Lordy, you wish you could have told that story 20, 15 years ago, the ability to move laterally between situations. That's a big turn of events. I actually appreciate you saying that. Jeremy, Eclipse, it's interesting when I think about Eclipse, I'm getting ready for today. I thought about that very first opening event with Vern and the whole thing way back when. It was just been such a journey in Albuquerque. It's up, it's down, it's out of business, it's back, it's got customers, it doesn't. But you guys have been on, you're battle hardened, it seems to me, at this point. You know,
it's a confusing story too, and
right.
I'll give you my rapid elevator speech.
Please.
I like to say that was them, this is now, right? It's Eclipse Aerospace. I work for the investors who bought the assets of that failed corporation. Mm-hmm. And they had 10 years of momentum. They designed and built, they innovated in 3 different technologies, from friction stir welding to fire suppression, Fostrex, and the engine design, the aircraft design itself. But they managed to make 260 aircraft before economic conditions just couldn't support it. We bought their stuff as is, where is, and we're quietly making airplanes again. But as a new company, it's not the same group of people. So
what's the space look like for you guys? What's going on nationally and internationally for the craft of your size and the marketplace you're looking for?
General aviation is lagging the larger economic recovery, but our growth is steady. You've probably known from the executives you've met at the Economic Development Group. We were going to talk more about what we have done and what we're going to do, but hire in such a way that we don't lay people off. We could do a big bust hiring, bust 120 people in one go, and they'd all be gone in 2 months. Task accomplished. But we're keeping it a slow, steady growth. I think what John referred to as submarine mode.
Yes.
Quietly making improvements. But if you've seen the inside of the place, it's shiny, it's gleaming white, and aircraft in position and things.
Can I plug for
Please.
him for just a
Absolutely.
second?
Sure.
So I have kids. It's an unfortunate byproduct of things that I love to do. But I come from a manufacturing family. As far back as we can trace our lineage, we've all been manufacturers. And I'm in a service aerospace world now, and I no longer have the ability to show my kids the means of manufacturing production in our facility. But I took them to your facility. And in Albuquerque, on a school day, we busted them out and we went through the tour of your place. And I could show my kids in this town how airplanes get built, get maintained, get tested. And that's something that is really incredible. Volumes are smaller, profile is smaller. But if you get the chance, or if you have unfortunate byproducts and you have to spend a day with them, that's a great place.
Everyone's going to steal that line. So everyone is so
I'm on it.
Right?
We do run those tours every Tuesday and Thursday. So.
Let's say, Jeremy, we'll stay with you one more quick second. I feel like poor David's getting left out here, but on manufacturing, this is a very interesting subject here. It comes up a lot in Albuquerque circles about building a footprint, because the simple fact is we need situations where people can be trained and hired, and we can start to get to the 150, 200 size hires at a whack to start chopping away at this here in the metro area. The future of manufacturing for your space as well. Let's assume you had a great year and you had 20% more orders than you have now. What does that actually mean for you as far as your relationship in Albuquerque and hiring and things of that nature? What's it going to take to take that significant bump?
Theoretically, that's quite doable. I mean, that's for us as a cost. That really is recruitment, searching, training, and software licensing. Anyway, I'm an IT director, and if it's not air or water, for facilities, it's computers, it's networks, it's bandwidth. All of those things scale rather easily, and we are ready for that hockey stick moment when it happens. The technology side of the business won't be a stumbling block. It really will be how fast can we get curriculum back into CNM? It's written, we have it archived. We could dust that off and get it going again. It's all quite doable. Something I wanted to chime in on was what you were saying earlier about the possibilities just of the population. When I'm traveling, I'm frequently trying to lure friends from New York or Santa Clara or Redmond, and as I described it, there are 2 million people in the whole state. Half of them live in one city. You've got 20,000 staff, students, and faculty at one university, and then 10,000 people at 2 national laboratories. You've got a population that is very heavily skewed towards high technology, and that actually works very much in favor of entrepreneurial development, because it's quite possible. I say join a book club, start writing legislation. You're not far away from having a direct effect on your environment. Sure. Equally, you can crater really quick if you're a goofball. But it does. A lot of people have an idea that what's possible nationally, demographically, isn't possible here, but actually amplifies everything. It's just like an island population, which gets stronger.
Interesting. That's an interesting analogy. An island population.
You are.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And seeing it in a positive way, there's benefits that come with that. That's interesting. Otherwise, people see it as a negative.
Yeah, socially, culturally, it does enforce good and
that's right. That's right. Interesting. I appreciate that for sure. David Abel, sorry about that. Trilumina. You certainly make something too. Sorry. I got to backtrack on this. Right, exactly. I take improvements. Here it is. Right. Here you go. Your future needs. You've had a rapid growth curve, certainly. Take us through your progression and where you see things headed, and potentially, the good news is what is in front of you that you feel like Albuquerque just can accommodate you. Do you see what I'm saying? You can do anything here, it seems to me, when I talk to you about your situation.
Well, first let me say I got to clear my mind, because Lim rung a bell that can't be unrung.
Yes. All right. There you go, Lim.
We talk about the course of Trilumina. It's kind of interesting because you mentioned CNM, and our company really started at TBI, if you can believe it, and because our founder took a laser fabrication course at TBI back in the early 80s. He's an artist, not a PhD, surprisingly. So he learned how to fabricate gallium arsenide lasers, and went to Los Alamos Labs, then at Sandia, and helped with the original crew who developed these lasers that power all of our fiber optics today. He left, I think he worked for Mode for a while, a couple other companies, but in his spare time he came up with this idea of how to pack a bunch of lasers together and have them work at high power and high speeds, and it worked. And the world has been trying to do this for 30 years, and this artist from Albuquerque who took a course at TBI came up with a solution, and that's what Trilumina is based on. And fortunately, we have the benefit of having a lot of people here that we can utilize to help drive the technology forward. And these are guys that actually invented these lasers at Sandia. You talked about using the children of PhDs. Well, we have about, 40% of our staff are PhDs. And they're too old to procreate right now. Which gives them a lot more time to work. But they work like entrepreneurs because they've had their careers at the labs. And these guys are working late at night, through the weekends. And I leave at 8 and they're still in the lab working, and I feel bad about it. But we have incredible resources here that support it. I'm starting to ramble, but
that's all right. But
there's so many.
It's an interesting point you just made here. Once again, so much for the cliche of the non-committal scientist who can't work like an entrepreneur, and all that nonsense. I mean, what you're describing, that's not the case at your shops.
No, they believe in technology. So one retired from Sandia, one one retired from MCOR
Mhm.
to come over and work with us and commit to the company because they believe in it.
Right.
And they're
So
working
your
hard.
people don't like to do what Len does?
Thank God, no. No, they don't. No, we joked before, I'm
Can
the,
any of you imagine how much trouble I'm in when I get home?
dead man.
I love it.
Yeah, I'm the youngest guy in the company, and it's only because I have gray hair on my neck, you know. But we're unlike other startups, but we work like a startup.
Right. I would propose that you're not that unusual for, if you think about an Albuquerque perspective, you might be actually sort of the model for a lot of companies, to be honest with you, as opposed to the younger. You know, you look at the assets we have, the human assets we have, PhDs walking around, you might be right in the catbird seat on that. Let me skip down to John real quick. John, was it you in the call that talked about the brilliant children of PhDs here in Albuquerque as part of your, yes. Could you please share that again? I thought you mentioned something quite profound here during our call with that.
Yeah, the statement was, you know, when I'm always talking to people about Albuquerque, I'm saying that, you know, we're the 1 or 2 or 3 most PhDs in the country, and that when you're in a startup, okay, startup is all about action. You know, it's not about deep thinking, but you need really smart people who can take action, and the children of PhDs are perfect for that. You know, and no offense to the PhDs in the room, but they haven't been ruined, you know, by the education, and don't get me wrong. I mean, I've been ruined by the education. You know, that when you deeply study a subject, the intellectual realm becomes absolutely as real as the physical realm, and that's where PhDs are great, and great in R&D, and they're great in absolute sectors of the planet for doing stuff. But when you're in a startup, as my folks can attest, you know, it's a fire drill. It is action. It's you know you're constantly reinventing it. You're constantly moving forward. You're thinking all the time. You're not locked into a 2-year plan until you really get it. So it's a different way, and it's great for young folk. And then to have this many smart folks around, like hiring has not been hard. It's been incredible. Like there's 3 people right there, 4 people right there who are just unbelievably brilliant, and we like tripped into them. You know, like we didn't do a search. You know, did we do a search for any of you guys? Was there any kind of? Did we have to go far? Did we have to hunt long? I mean.
You had a billboard up for a while, didn't you?
No, we didn't have the budget for that. So.
Yeah. No, Randy, would you echo that as well? I like this idea of what we've got naturally at hand here in Albuquerque in the county, that we have this, plethora of sons and daughters of PhDs who, blazed the trail into Mexico earlier on, and now there's this whole page turn. Something very interesting afoot with this. Are you finding the same thing for yourself?
We've got a very different approach, I think, in that regard. I don't really profile that way.
Okay.
I was fortunate at a young age, probably 24, 25, where I got involved with my first technology startup. I was employee number 1 or 2, and I was mentored by a really great entrepreneur. And so I was taught to think holistically about what we're doing, and I was brought to every major meeting. Rooms I should not have been in at that age, and I was really not qualified to understand what was going on, and a lot of times I didn't. But after 6 or 7 months, it got into my blood, and Oz was revealed, and I knew what I wanted to do from that point forward. And unfortunately for me, I had to leave the state. That all happened for me when I was in Arizona. So I look at startups that way. I think that the tremendous benefit and honor of having a startup is that you get to choose your army and choose your team, and you get to evolve these folks and teach them to do really great, amazing things. And so I don't profile based on education. I want people who can run through walls. I want folks that won't tell me they don't know how to get there from here, but they bring me the result when due date is there. I want articulate people and folks that are completely self-confident, know they want more in life, and are willing to work and get things done. And so sometimes that's a master's level person, sometimes it's a person with a high school diploma. To me, it's about can they get the work done, and can I put them with the customer and they're a great ambassador for the company and a great ambassador for what we're doing in Albuquerque. A lot of folks look at Albuquerque and New Mexico as a third world state. So when we go out, and in food service, this is heavy in the southeast states, right? You got the Carolinas, and that's where a lot of that emanates. So we want to make sure that we are representing well, that people view us a certain way and they feel great to work with this company out of Albuquerque. So we bring these folks on these meetings. If I'm meeting, and we've been fortunate, we get good audiences. We've had the GPs, the Georgia Pacifics of the world, and the Coca-Colas. And a lot of them are looking for innovation, and they're not set up to innovate. They simply are not. They're commodities players. They do not know how to innovate. So they're welcoming the interaction from the outside. I take our youngest people on those meetings. I want them in the room. I want them feeling comfortable being quiet and not saying a thing and feeling like they don't need to add. And then I want to do a download with them when they're done. And I want to make sure that in 5 or 6 years, that if we're acquired, or these companies are acquired that we're working on, I want them capable of building their own companies, and what an honor it is to have that. So with that, I get people that work for us in the early days for no money at all. We just hired a person, paying her a great salary. She called me up and said, I will work for you for 2 to 3 hours a week for absolutely nothing. I just want to make sure that when you hire someone like me, gets considered. She's now heading our social media. We're paying her a lot more than she was making in her last job. We're proud to have her, and she runs through walls. And so we get folks that want to work with us, and we're very pleased. And I look at this crew as really the genetics of the rest of the company. This is really who we are, how we're going to build, and what folks are going to be expected to do, and what they should expect when they walk through our doors. And if you've got that, you've got great people, then by default you're a great company. Right. And so that's how I view it.
Interesting. You know, you mentioned what really just jumped out there about taking folks on the road to be in the room, so to speak. It's amazing how powerful it is. I was very lucky in my early broadcast career, early 20s, late teens, to be in the room on a couple of occasions. It changed everything. It absolutely changes everything. And the fact that you're doing it on your dime, bringing people on the road to do that is huge. And I got to tip my hat to you. That's pretty special. Len, on this idea of who takes over a company down the road, do you have confidence in your crew that you see somebody that could be a potential person to take over your deal, take it somewhere else down the road? And do you see people with the potential to go out and start their own companies after they've been with you for a while? Are you sensing that from some of the folks that you have on board?
Absolutely. If I answer no to that, my chairman would fire me, right? So there's both the very short term, you have to protect your company. Even as the founder, you have to protect your company from something happening to any key person. There's lots of great literature out there. There's the 2-in-the-box type of thing. But a healthy competition between several people who would like your job is always a good thing. The biggest thing you have to do is get over your damn self and be good with that and not feel threatened by that, not hold on to things, because I've run the full cycle before. I have brought in someone as a consultant and as an OOEO, took over my company, made it bigger, sold it for more than I would have sold it for. I love that man. How could you not love that man? So once you build a little bit of a program around that, absolutely, we have those folks identified, and I have them busy out now identifying who's going to replace them. Because when you really think about it, the goal of this has to be building at all levels. You have to be adding people fresh at the bottom and getting them the exposures. We have challenging things. We have to brace yourselves. We have to teach engineers how to do business development. And it starts at a really basic level. And we talk and we say, eventually you'll need to stand up. And at that point, your pants should touch your shoes. But likewise, you also have to have we get them to trade pants sometimes, so you can get a tall guy with long pants to a short guy. It never looks good, but with engineers you can get away with an awful lot. But the notion is not only do we have to plant that, you have to get technical people thinking about image, but you also have to transplant a lot of other information. So when you take great technical people and ask them to review a contract with a Delta Airlines, and the question is why are you doing that? That's a waste of time. They first go through and correct the spelling and punctuation, and you try and explain to them that doesn't matter, right? Delta is not going to change their spelling and punctuation for us, but I want you to see what we're agreeing to. I want you to get into that. Where could we go wrong with that? but training them up for that. So you have to find them at the very base level for driving your forklift, but that guy's got to be ready, not necessarily to run the company, but he's got to be ready to log data on a part. And that guy that was logging data of the part needs to move up. You got to give him the opportunity. You got to give him the opportunity to experiment, but then you also got to give him the opportunity to go back. And one of the failures we have in these empire building schemes is that you promote somebody to a new level, they completely suck at it, and you leave them there. Or even worse, you promote them out of the way. So what you have to do is come up with structures where people can explore new things, try different things. You got to find out what they're good at and what makes them happy, and weave little paths for them to do that. And then you got to teach them how to do that for somebody else.
Interesting.
And then you got to be ready for them to leave you and go into competition with you, and that's the best thing that could possibly happen.
Isn't that the goal for all of Albuquerque, right? Competition like that. That's right. You cut good jokes, but you make good points, though, too. I gotta say, you're two-fisted. You get it going on. Double check on time, Marilyn. We're at 5, or you're 5:22.
Let's do 10 minutes.
Do you want to stop here to start taking questions from the audience?
I would love
To fill the
that.
10 minutes? We can do that. We can do
Actually,
that.
I want Jeremy and David to speak a little bit more.
Sure, we can do that. We can finish it and then think about those questions. We're coming at you. Jeremy, looking forward, you guys, again, I have to say, it's just such an international business. Your customer base is everywhere, your money's from everywhere, the whole thing. It's a very interesting situation. In your best case scenario, I'm just curious, how many planes would you like to be making annually here? You get this all the time, I'm sure, but
You really can't answer that.
You can? Okay.
How many would I like to make? Oh,
Sure, that's good enough.
It would be glorious if we were, putting out 100 a year to begin with.
Right.
We're in single large contracts to leasers. But, as far as projections, I can't begin to project.
Fair enough.
The most we possibly could make. Building more facilities would be wonderful. Mechanically, it does scale, and it's very possible. Someone mentioned something about the wonders of commercial aviation here. I don't know what you're thinking. But,
It's a volatile business. I mean, it's really,
it does lag. It follows a large economy. But what sort of economic recovery do you want? I want one that's jet powered. There you go. You gotta move around. There you go. Right. It has a stigma of a personal jet. Well, actually, that's not such a bad thing. It is a really great business tool. It's designed just with that in mind. We have one customer who's he owns 3 car dealerships. He was looking at, do I hire 3 general managers, or do I move between those 3 businesses once a week? Also an aviation enthusiast. Now, he's not hired 3 people, but he's purchased a really rather boutique item that gives him a great advantage over his nearby competitors.
sure. That's interesting. I never thought about that, having the plane replace.
It's a business
It's
tool.
interesting, yeah.
Most people are doing that, pre-dawn, get ready for a
That's
business
right.
trip. You're up at 4 in the morning to have
That's
a
right.
meeting at noon.
And lots of small municipal airports all over that can get you there close, which is part of the trick of what you're
Part of
doing.
it.
Absolutely.
But I would like to build as many as we possibly could.
There you go. I like that. We do too. David, if you can finish up on
100 million.
Under $1 million? That
Well,
works.
100 million. I'll just cut you off.
That's all right. That's all right.
No,
Or-
we-
go ahead.
It goes to the resources here in Albuquerque. We had a customer ask us out of the blue, can you make 10 million a month? Wow, 10 million a month. I mean, that's incredible, right? And the guy next to me with the 17-year Intel processing fab guy said, yeah, I was making 10 million every 2 weeks, right? So it's that kind of resource. It's pretty, I'm looking at John, but these things make a big difference.
Sure.
But those are the kind of resources that we do have here, and we're fortunate enough to have them. And I was thinking about the topic and honest discussion about doing business in Albuquerque, and really, you have to do business from Albuquerque. And we were talking about that a little bit earlier, because all of our clients are outside MA. Over the past week, I've dealt with people from France, from Israel, from Austin. I'm trying to think some other interesting places,
Yeah.
but literally, it was in the course of a week, and no one in Albuquerque. So you have to have the skills and the resources that allow you to compete on a global level. And sometimes, the PhDs are great, and we have that sort of resource, but you have to reach out sometimes and bring people in.
Sure.
I was talking to Scott and Ray Quintana about this. there's some things you just can't acquire here, and the kind of big deal exposure and the M&A and corporate development work that just doesn't happen here. You have to go to Dallas, you have to go to New York, you just have to go to those markets to get it. And I, quite frankly, I didn't realize it until I left and was able to engage in some really sophisticated deals. But in order to do business from Albuquerque, you have to have that level of experience, I think, to get to the next level to compete, on a worldwide basis.
Interesting. Let's turn to the audience questions. Show of hands is good enough, and we can just shout them out from where you're standing. Anybody have a question or a comment or observation about their own? Ma'am, please.
Shameless plug for Trilumina. It isn't just a bunch of retired PhDs. They invest in the young people, and they help sponsor an intern from our program, and they hire him. So thank you for investing in the youth.
Don't worry about that. We'll make money. That's what we do. But what I would encourage you to do is, somebody brought it up about how our local political landscape here is actually so much better than it is most of the places that we travel in the country. So find all of the politicians who think about removing barriers for us to do our jobs, giving us support to do our jobs. The angel investment tax credit, the JTIPs, those types of things really help business. I'm not saying that we don't need any regulation and that business should be cut loose, but we need to find those people and support them and give them the backing they need to do those jobs. Then we need to find everybody else who wants this adversarial relationship between government and business and anything else. We need to find them, and we need to bury them on the West Mesa. Until we all realize that this is a symbiosis, right? We need schools that put out kids that can go to work in our companies, that can pay taxes, that can pave our roads, that can give us our policies and programs. We can get very focused on the adversarial nature of all of this. And I say this with regret, because I'm a fighter, and I've fought for years and years. 20 years ago, almost to the day, I went and pulled my first business license down the street. I've been continuously self-employed in Albuquerque since then. And I did a lot of fighting and a lot of scrapping and a lot of complaining, bitching, moaning, whining. Never really did any good. It didn't start to turn around and work well until I started looking at the assets that were here, the mentors that I could have, the politicians who would say, let me help you with that. But until you look at the symbiosis of it, when I say somebody leaves you and goes into competition with you, that you trained, that you taught all this, that is the most positive thing that you can happen, because it means the environment's there, it means somebody passed on to somebody else what they learned and is not afraid of that kind of competition and growth. So I think that, short of the public burial on the West Mesa, all of that is probably valuable.
Well said. I agree.
For me, what you could do is, next time someone says, "Oh, New Mexico," just smack them. I mean, this is great. Nothing's keeping me up at night. I mean, this is a fantastic place to work from. This is an exciting, cool place. Compared to the East Coast with the humidity and the bugs and the overcast and the gazillion people.
Yeah, I have to agree. I see my friends in Santa Clara or Manhattan. Their life sucks.
Yeah, it sucks. It
They're miserable.
sucks.
They're carving out that 1/60 millionth slice of the pie.
And
good for you.
and I think there's only 3 or 4 cities in the country that really don't have a self-esteem issue, and that's like Chicago, New York, LA, Dallas, maybe Denver. Denver's got a self-esteem issue. They have these issues, and New Mexico is playing into that. Don't go there. Man, this place rocks. Next time someone acts like we're backward ass, just smack them.
Well, when we talk to people internationally about Albuquerque, we tell them, because we're making this happen, we're the photonics Mesa, right? That's because we have optoelectronics, we have photonics expertise. Make it happen. Don't complain about it. I just realized it was Lem about a year ago. There was this guy that stood up at Coronado Ventures or some other place who said, if you're complaining about doing business in Albuquerque, it's because you suck at doing business. And I just realized it had to be.
Yeah, I mean, if you see people bitching about the city, the culture, blah, 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 the real reason is either their business idea sucks or they suck at doing business.
Yeah.
Okay, it's not, there's no stop here. mean, this is an open, free place, and that's what an entrepreneur needs. They need a place for vision. They need a place to swing away, and that's what this place is.
Bottle this and just distribute it citywide. This is like, you guys are awesome. I have to say, we're going to finish up here. We're just a little bit over time, but I would propose to you at this table, here's what's happening. You guys are in effect what used to happen years ago when you had large companies, middle managers, big swath of middle managers who would spill off and start companies. We don't have that here, and that's okay. For a long time, the big chase was for the big footprint employer so that could start to happen. My sense of it is you guys are actually the path clearers. This is the way to go. At some point in a generation, all the work that you're doing is going to be, in fact, a lot like that. The folks that spill out of your situations are going to carry this whole thing forward, and then we're going to start to see the spread of the footprint as it goes. And you guys are on the front edge of that. And I can't thank you enough for spending some time with us and finishing this event and on a good, positive, upbeat note. And thank you very much. And Marilyn, where are you? There you are. Come take us out. Thank you all for participating.